Welcome back to Next Up TV. I am your host, Miss Faye, and I'm sitting here with the author, Imonie Sincere of Flo Motion 1 and 2. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. This is an opportunity that's amazing. I should say that more than anything. I'm thankful.
Before we get into your full journey, tell us about life growing up, like middle school, high school. Who were you back then?
Okay, well, that's cool. You know, first and foremost, as a young man, I was always that shy little skinny kid that knew how to play basketball real good. I was never as smooth as everybody probably thought I was, but my journey, I grew up in Miami, Florida, you know, North Miami to say per se, before I moved to Fort Lauderdale. You know, middle school, I was going to Madison Middle. I went to Miami Central for my 9th grade year. And in 1999, my mom moved to Broward County, right on Sis-Trunk, which are very known apartments called Regal Trace that everybody knows about.
Yeah.
You know, that was a blessing. That was a beautiful blessing, I should say, because it kind of spared me. Because my childhood youth, not saying that I was doing too much wrong, but I was very sneaky in my criminal ways. And just, you know, being able to move to Broward and go to a prestigious school like Fort Lauderdale High School, it allowed me to hone my intelligence and, you know, really get in tune with playing basketball, just who I was as a young man.
Right.
And so I'm thankful for that journey. After that, you know, of course, just like all my other peers, I thought Tallahassee was heaven on earth. So I attended Florida A&M, and what happened from that point?
Well, that's the story I want to know. So you went to high school, you're one of the top basketball stars, and then you move on to college.
Right.
What happened after that?
You know, life happened. I began to dibble and dabble in the streets. You know, thinking I was too smart for my own good. I want to be on both sides of the fence. I want to go to school and I want to live in the street life.
But how did you make time to do both?
I don't even think I really slept much, you know. Like if I slept in the car or I slept in doses, you know what I mean? 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there. Thinking that my way was the blueprint, which it wasn't. Because I was living too fast, right, to be too young. And to have the kind of intelligence and opportunities that I had to go to college, that many young men, myself included, and many of my peers that I grew up with wanted the opportunity that I had, and I took it for granted.
But being in college, that's an experience that a lot of people want to have. What made you want to turn back to the streets? Like, what made you want to stay in the streets when you had the opportunity to be in school?
Well, honestly, because we're on Next Up TV, and I got to be honest with you, Miss Faylene, and everybody that's watching, the allurement, you know, of the fast life, you know, the beautiful women, nice cars, having money, being able to go and do what you want to do, right, and just because I wasn't playing basketball, so the how should I say, the cheers from the crowd was no longer there. So I needed something to suffice what I felt as if I needed internally. Right. So just, you know, hustling and thinking that I'm still that guy, you know what I mean, kept me in the streets doing wrong.
So you've been incarcerated after that whole being in the streets. What caused that? What made you get arrested and go to prison? Well,
for starters, when keeping it real goes wrong. So I'm going to rewind the tape a little bit. Leading up to that point, you know, I was dealing with a couple guys from down this way. You know, we were in and out doing our thing here and there. And I acquired, most people say a nickname or a moniker, that I began to actually really, how should I say, allow it to become me. So now I'm trying to live up to this name that they give me in the streets. You know, so I'm doing all the things that I know I shouldn't have been doing. Because as I was doing wrong, I felt it in my soul, like you shouldn't be doing it, but it's just that I felt that I was gaining so much respect from guys who really, I shouldn't have even been hanging around from the beginning. But the respect that they gave me allowed me to keep pushing and keep pushing. And so I got involved with a few dudes, and we were doing wrong, you know, hustling, you know, toting guns, just all the things that I shouldn't have been doing because I was still going to college at this time. Wow. And I had a son, and that really forced me deeper into the streets to kind of like thinking that I'm doing the right thing to make money. Right. And a robbery was committed, but, you know, everybody got away. Things happened, you know what I mean? 3 years later, I'm getting arrested, not knowing that somebody that I had revered or respected as someone that they call real in the streets would actually, you know, tell on me. Yeah. Or not even tell on me per se, but just tell about the situation, and it allowed me to get corralled. But me going to prison was based on me not wanting to become a rat, or me not thinking I'm doing the right thing, when keeping it real goes wrong, which I still feel I did the right thing, because at that time in my life, I was living by a certain code.
Right.
To where...
The street code.
Right. And now, thinking about it right now, that code is very, very foolish. You know, not saying if I had to
do we really have a code, though? Like, do people really abide by that code?
Of course
not that many, right?
Of course not.
Yeah.
Because if they did, I would never got arrested.
True.
But my upbringing, you know, like I said, I always lived in what you would call the hood, but that hood was so good to me, and it taught me so much that I always abided by certain principles. Like, I loved growing up on Sixth Trunk. I loved, you know, the feeling that I got just saying I'm from Rica Trace, you know what I mean, which is a known apartments in Broward County, out the city. You know, so I really appreciated that, you know, so I would never allow myself or allow my family legacy to be tainted at that time. But it was a blessing in disguise, I should say, because it made me who I am today. Well,
being in prison, I want to know because you see so many things on TV, and, you know, you experience being in prison. Is it really like what we see on TV, all the fights and all the stuff that goes down?
Well, I did I did a total of 10 years behind in prison.
Wow.
I got arrested in 2008, and so right now we're sitting here in 2008. So I did 10 years, and I got arrested in Tallahassee. So anybody that goes to prison in the state of Florida knows that prisons in the Panhandle of the state of Florida are always the roughest. From the time you get off the bus, it was told, you're either gonna get you a knife, you're gonna fight, or you're gonna become less of a man. So these stories are always told to you before you even get there. So, you know, just getting there. But then I began to see that was not the actual reality, because men are going to respect you for your intelligence. They're going to respect you because of how you respect yourself and how you respect them.
Right.
Now, if you're indulging in different things, like as far as, you know, gang life, or, you know, crossing over that fence, which is something I never could do, you know what I'm saying, being immoral, messing around with homosexuals, then you're going to involve yourself in certain situations that you don't need to be in. And so, yeah, it's a lot of blood being shed in prison, but it's not as bad as everyone thinks. It's bad because you're away from your family, you're away from the streets, you're away from, you know, good food, because the food in there is terrible. Right. You're behind, like, I can't, it's very bad. Prison is very bad. I would never wish that on my worst enemy, because I got some stories about some of my days being behind that cell door alone, no cell phones, no pen and paper, just a cold room, you know, with you and your thoughts. But it allows you to get closer to God and closer to yourself.
But how did you get through 10 whole years? Like, what did you have to do every single day to say, hey, my time is coming? But you have 10 years to go.
All right, so now we're up to this point of how I became Imonie Sincere.
Yeah.
Because by me writing, it allowed me to mentally escape prison. Physically, I was there, but as I began to... It started with me, basically, it started off with me reading books, urban books, or reading the Bible, and reading different books, so that allowed me to escape. But the more that I read these books, I realized that there were no stories about the state of Florida, or South Florida per se, or just in general, just the South Florida.
Miami, Palm Beach.
Right.
Howard.
And then by me going to college, I always had the ability to write. My grammar skills were very up to par. So I'm like, well, dang, some of these books are not really very well written. The story's okay, but something inside of me said, you can do better. So I began to write. And then I would write like 20 or 30 pages, and I would let some of my peers read it. And the excitement they would have from reading something that took me 45 minutes to write took me to a whole new level.
Right.
Because I kept writing, I got better and better. But what it did was it allowed me to, how should I say, preserve my mind. Because I was always traveling somewhere as I wrote. Like, you know, I would write books in like 9 days. A full book, you know, which is crazy.
So that's how you came about with Flo Motion 1 and 2, right? In prison.
Well, yeah, per se, yes. I definitely in prison. It took me, like, what happened was, I never forget, because I wasn't always all good in prison. When I first got to prison, I was very angry. Like, I was wanting to fight everybody. Not everybody, but if you looked at me wrong, I felt like the world owed me something. So I was doing a lot of time in confinement, which my mother can attest to that. I remember one time I did like 6 months straight in confinement in this cold cell, and it was just like horrific conditions, you know. But my ability to write, it just kept me free. And yes, Flo Motion 1 was written when I was doing time, and then part 2, I actually wrote the same book. I wrote this in confinement as well. But a lot of guys, like in my situation, when they go to prison, they do a lot of writing raps or writing books in confinement. But when they get out, they don't really hold on to it. They just discard it.
Right.
But me,
You published it.
when I put those thoughts on paper, I didn't care what it could be toilet paper, it could be whatever I can get my hands on, I'm gonna write it down, and I would guard it like the Holy Grail. Because I knew in my mind that when I got out, this was gonna be my opportunity to redeem my faults, my failures, or what everyone thought about me, the stigma they put upon me. Because I knew that was never me.
Did you see the stuff with your own two eyes to make you write those books?
Well, of course, you're from South Florida, I'm from South Florida, so
Yeah.
these are daily experiences, not per se that I live firsthand,
Right.
but some of my peers, some of my family members, we've all experienced, or you've heard stories of someone, and sometimes I would just sit around and listen to dudes talk as if we was at a bonfire,
Yeah.
and they would talk, and I would just be like, because I read books about, I'm gonna go a little bit into history, but the African griots, those were the ones who told history, and they told it orally, and it passed down from generation to generation. So I would just sit around and listen, and I was like, I might be the scribe to one to tell. I got to tell the stories of the people, and so I began to write. And so, no, I didn't really live most of those. Some of the books that I've written, bits and pieces of my life may be in there,
Yeah.
but not like it's always going to be. It's reality fiction. I want it to resonate loudly with you or anybody else who reads it.
Right.
From the grandmothers to the grandfathers to our peers or whoever reads it, except for the little kids, because it's definitely not definitely X-rated sometimes, But it's all great, you know what I mean? I'm just trying to do some great things to just entertain the people, entertain the world, as if I was Tyler Perry or somebody.
Don't tell us the full story, but tell us a little bit about Flo Motion 1 and 2. But you guys have to get the book.
Okay, of course, Flo Motion 1, sex, lies, betrayal, love, loyalty, a lot of hurt. It's about a dude named, it's a couple stars of the book. One of the main characters is a guy named Youngin. His real name is Fred Young. And, he was living a street life, but he wanted to change his ways, so he came in contact with people, and he entered the rap game. But, past ties to the streets, cricket cops, and, cricket women, and loyal friends, and disloyal friends, kept him attached to the underworld.
Right.
Even though he wanted to get away, he was still attached to the underworld. And so, that book is going to take you on an emotional roller coaster.
So reading Flo Motion 1, now you have 2. What else would you like to accomplish? Because you did bring up Tyler Perry. Do you want to get into films as well?
Of course. Well, when I was incarcerated, I written 17 novels. Those are the first 2 that got published.
So we have way more to come.
A whole lot more. And it's not always about the shoot 'em up, bang, bang, or the betrayal lifestyle of the streets, because I have urban love stories as well, just to show that no one can put me in a box.
Right.
I'm not going to reveal the names of these books yet, but I definitely have them. You know what I mean? It's something that you can have, you can read. Your husband might come home and he see you reading, like, what you reading? And before you know it, you all over him because this book has just took you there. But these are the kind of things that I want to expose to the world, that I'm not what someone may portray me to be.
Right.
And of course, I written screenplays, and I written stage plays, because I began to entertain some of the inmates I was incarcerated with. They would look for me on the compound, like, where you at? We need, Mother's Day coming up, Father's Day, we need a screenplay, we need a stage play. And I began to realize that, my voice is way louder than I give myself credit for.
Wow.
People love my creative work, and so that was amazing. And then, I didn't really want to. I read a lot of books about, how should I say, the African culture, the black culture, just being an entrepreneur. So I didn't really want to allow someone else to dictate what I write and what I don't write. So I began to employ myself. I learned how to publish my own books, how to start my own company. And, I just believed in God. I just took one step at a time.
So if someone would like to purchase one of your books, Flo Motion 1 or 2, where should they go?
Well, Flo Motion 1 actually is on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, and Books A Million website. And every now and then you may be able to catch me as I'm mingling throughout the streets. You can get it from me by hand, and I can also sign it for you, which I'm thanking God for that, you know what I mean? But actually, Flo Motion 2 has yet to come out. It's coming out February 20th, and we're in the process right now of putting together a book signing right here in Fort Lauderdale.
Yes.
At a place called Gigi's Nightclub, but don't quote me on that just yet. But it's definitely gonna be a stellar night, But this book is gonna be available on my website, www.urbanexcellence Entertainment, or ENT.com. And it's going to be great.
Stay tuned, y'all. Make sure you guys get Flo Motion 1 because you need to know what's going to happen in Flo Motion 2. I am your host, Miss Faye, and you're tuned in to Next Up TV. Pow.